Hello everyone, I know it's been a while, but I'm back. I hope you're all having a great day, and I hope you like the new setup. We're in a new location, obviously. I'm gonna talk about that later, but hope you enjoy it. For now, still a work in progress, but we're getting there. Today's video is going to be a little bit different from what I've been doing the last few months. But before I get into that, I want to thank you all for the support on those videos. This new wave of content that I've been doing is I've just been having fun bringing stories to you all, whether it's a film analysis or a breakdown of an album. All of the stuff that I've been doing lately has been really fun. I'm very proud of the direction that this channel is going. And throughout this new style of content that I've been doing, I've kind of implied the inevitable direction that I want this channel to go. But in this video, I want to kind of step out and confidently tell you all what I have planned. But before that, I want to take the time to tell you another story. Possibly the most important story that I've ever told on this channel, because it is the story of me. Cheesy, right? Don't worry, this won't be a super in-depth video. I mean, I am gonna go into detail, but not lots of detail. I'm 22 years old and there's a lot to get through. I just want to showcase some of my background to you all, where I come from and where I'm going in these next few years. And I hope you'll stick around. So with all that said, let's get into it. So I was born 22 years ago in Canada to two amazing parents. And a year after I was born, my parents would have my younger brother. So it's been the four of us this whole time. And I've lived in Canada my entire life, starting out in Saskatchewan, moving to British Columbia for a very brief time, and then going back to Saskatchewan for around 5 years, finally settling in Alberta in 2010. And from a very early age, both me and my brother both loved to tell stories. I feel like make-believe is a very common thing that siblings will do, or even kids will do when they're very young. And yes, me and my brother spent over a decade creating these stories between us, pretending to be heroes or animals or whatever else we wanted to be.
You're a king? You are a cool king, buddy.
From very early on in my life, stories have played a very important role in my life and how I communicate with others. And when we did move to Alberta, I was in the second grade. And I want to make it very clear, when I talk about this early part of my time in Alberta, I was never bullied as a child. That's one thing that I can say. I was never part of the popular group at school, but I was also never the victim of any bullying of any kind. Unless they did it behind my back, in which case that's pretty messed up. But regardless of that, I never felt like I quite fit in with a lot of the people at my school, which led to, one, me becoming extremely introverted as a person, and I'm still introverted to this day. You may not realize that because I publish myself on the internet. Behind the scenes, it's just me alone in a room right now, so maybe I am very introverted. And that also led to me really attaching to and forming bonds with the friends that I made in those early years. Some of them I am still very much friends with to this day, actually. Skipping a whole bunch of elementary school lore, I then graduated into middle school. And I'm not going to go into detail on all the normal stuff that people go through around that age, you know, hitting puberty and becoming really awkward, all that stuff. I feel like it's all implied. Though I will say, through that time, my life was really not that turbulent, at least not as turbulent as other people that I went to school with. But what I do want to focus on in this period is how my storytelling kind of evolved during this time. Because this is when I first became truly fascinated with the medium of film. I have always loved watching movies, even well before this, but around this age is when I started to become more enamored with the stuff that goes on behind the scenes, the actual like making of a film, the production aspect of it. And just a little hint to people who love watching like behind the scenes of film sets in detail, watch the behind the scenes stuff for The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. A lot of popular movies will just have like, you know, a few clips of the director saying things to people behind the scenes, and that's kind of it. But Peter Jackson's like two big franchises, they have like hours and hours of documentaries going over the whole process behind each movie, and it's incredible. During this time, I became inspired to begin shooting little video projects myself with my brother and a few of my friends. So I downloaded iMovie for my iPad mini, and we began shooting these iMovie trailers. For those who don't know, the iMovie app, I don't know if it still has these or not, but at the time they had these templates you could follow where you would just film different clips of different durations, and then iMovie would kind of like composite and edit your video into a trailer format. And so we started making a bunch of these just for our own amusement. This is the beginnings of where my methods of storytelling began to evolve. And then towards the end of my middle school career, my group of friends expanded. Now, these friends did not appear in any of my videos, but they were nevertheless really good friends. We would hang out every day during lunch, and we still remain in touch to this day. And around this time, me and my friends who I'd been filming with in the past had an idea. What if we took these video projects that we had been making just for fun, for our own amusement, and published them on YouTube? That way, possibly more people could enjoy them. And that's when me and my friends began our first joint YouTube channel. I didn't really watch YouTube around this time, but we still began posting our videos there. We would use this channel to upload the trailers we'd made. We began expanding into doing more like home video style, you know, short narrative projects. Obviously they weren't good, but they were a stepping stone, right? So they were important. We weren't exactly producing like top tier cinema, but it's a step in the process. And after this point came a very formative step in my journey of storytelling. In my high school, they offered a class called Communication Technologies, or ComTech for short. This was essentially a video class, video production, video editing. They kind of taught you the basics and basically just let you come up with your own projects and results. And for many people taking this class, it was just a throwaway class. They would do, you know, the bare minimum amount of work just so they could get credits to graduate. But for me, that class and the instructor who taught it were very formative for where I am today. Me and my friends had been making videos for a while at this point, but now we found a class where we could do that same thing and get credit for it, but also like, you know, expand our skill, expand the range of equipment we were able to use, because our school did have equipment. While they were severely underfunded, in my opinion, it was still a step up from the iPad mini we had started with. And throughout this time, the production value of our projects improved, and my own personal skill at filmmaking improved. And this was also when I was introduced to films like The Godfather and Apocalypse Now, which I realize are both Ford Coppola films, but my teacher was very, very fond of those films. And both of those films I will probably inevitably end up talking about on this channel at some point. Watching those films in particular really transformed my idea of what movies could be and what stories you could tell using that medium. I had never seen anything like them before, and it really did change my outlook on cinema in general. And another thing that happened in high school was I started watching YouTube. I swear this is important. One of the very first channels that I started watching quite often, I was recommended them by a friend, a channel called Jack's Films. He made really good stuff, and I was particularly fond of his parody videos. He did sketches as well, and I thought they were very entertaining. And from there, I branched out to many of the well-known YouTubers in the space, like PewDiePie, Jacksepticeye, Markiplier, all of those people. And of all the YouTubers I started to watch during this time, Markiplier quickly became one of my favorites. I swear this is important to the story, I'm getting to that. I was initially pulled in, as many other people were, by his gaming content. I really loved his funny commentary and just the absolute lunacy that he portrayed on camera. And then, on May 12th, 2019, Markiplier released a video entitled Damien. It was an animated short film, and I thought it was fantastic. It was very compelling and quite dreadful, but as a person who was just discovering this for the first time, I was entirely without context when watching it. And from there, I discovered his Who Killed Markiplier series, and I discovered this whole ARG that existed on his channel before I even knew what ARGs were. This also helped to shape my perspective on what storytelling could be, especially storytelling online. And from there, I was always on the edge of my seat for Mark's next big project, and he did not disappoint. So now we're going to move on to grade 12, my final year of high school, where me and my friends took our skill with filming and editing and video production to the next level. See, at our high school, there was this media board that would produce a monthly, essentially, show for the students. It was usually 30 to 45 minutes in length. It would be broadcast across the school, and it would usually consist of student projects or just funny ongoing series by people who would regularly submit stuff for the show. And in grade 12, me and my friends were the producers and editors for that show. So we were essentially in charge of compiling this whole show that would be broadcast for the school, as well as editing a lot of it. And we also hosted our own segment on the show called Screen Factor. And on the show, we would basically talk about upcoming movie and video game releases that month, while also doing really just funny, goofy bits with each other, just kind of goofing off, but also, talking about things that we were looking forward to. And we also ended up becoming the go-to guys for people and organizations around town and in some cases the province that needed video jobs done for them, resulting in a lot of freelance work for a lot of us. For example, one of the jobs I was contracted to do during my grade 12 year was produce a series of educational videos to be shown in medical schools in Alberta. I edited together the videos as well as did voiceover work for the project itself. And that is how I know how to say venous thromboembolism, which I have not said in years, so that was probably terrible. Me and my friends also filmed the opening ceremonies for a tournament that was taking place in our town on behalf of Sportsnet, and edited a series of videos for them to then broadcast on national television. That is very real. It sounds like a joke, but we did actually do that. We became the people to contact if you wanted any video work done. And now, in the present day, me and those friends are all still learning and working in the media sector, which is really cool. If any of you are watching this, hi. In July of 2019, I graduated high school, and in September of that same year, I began going to university in British Columbia. Having been inspired by all of these films I had watched over the years, being inspired by my teacher in high school to kind of, grow and expand my talent for filmmaking, as well as many of the creators that I found online who were making great stuff, I decided that I wanted to go to university for filmmaking to continue to develop those skills and, see what amazing stuff I could make. Now, this was a liberal arts school that I attended, so my first year was spent taking a lot of not film-related classes, just kind of knocking those credit classes out of the way so that I could focus on filmmaking in the subsequent years. And in December of that year, I launched this YouTube channel. It was initially called WJR Productions, a channel where I would upload primarily sketch comedy at the time. Some bits were short and funny, while others were scripted and far more elaborate. I had a lot of great times, met a lot of great people, and then in the spring semester of that year, COVID hit. Bet you were waiting for this part of the story. We all love talking about it. See, I had heard about it back in December when those initial videos coming out of China first appeared on the internet, and I initially thought that it wouldn't spread to North America. I remembered in grade 8 when there were a couple cases of Ebola in the United States, but they managed to, quarantine the problem and it wasn't able to spread further in America. I kind of figured that COVID would do the same thing. Spoiler alert, it didn't. My first year at university was amazing, as I've already said, but in that second semester, there was kind of this ever-looming sense of dread. I think everyone felt it, but I definitely felt it. The virus was in Canada, and it was getting closer and closer to us at university, and people I went to school with had started leaving to go home. I swear all of this is important to the story. I remember going to Walmart at one point to pick up groceries. I very naively figured I would just wait out the pandemic at the school and, it'll blow over soon. I'll just grab groceries to last me 2 weeks and then everything will be okay. And I remember getting to Walmart and all the shelves of toiletries, sanitation, bleach, all of that, the shelves were completely empty. I had never seen anything like it. And I'll admit, I was very fearful during this time. I was afraid of what was going on. We didn't really know all that much about the virus during this time, and the list of symptoms was constantly evolving during this time. I spent so much time in those weeks just Googling the mortality rate of this virus. Not because I was worried about myself, but I knew it had a stronger effect on older people, and so I was worried for a lot of the older members of my family. And towards the end of that semester, the isolation began. So many people had left university at this point, and our cafeteria, the common area for all students, had to implement safety measures in order to keep people healthy. In the last week that I was there at school, seating was restricted to one person per table. So my last meal at the cafeteria that year was spent with a few of my friends who were still there at this point, all at neighboring tables, chatting to each other, but very far apart. And I ended up leaving that same week, which was probably a good thing because provincial borders closed not long after that. And thus began the very long stint of dread and isolation. During this time, there was no seeing friends or doing anything fun. During this time, I either was at work or I was at home, and those were the two options. It was a vicious cycle of just going to work and coming back and going to work and coming back. And when I went back to university for my second year, all the classes were still online, and you couldn't socialize with anyone who was outside of your dorm. During this time, your dorm was essentially your family unit, and at that time, you could only interact with your family unit. So it was just me and my dorm. And this relentless monotony and isolation definitely did have an effect on me, an effect that is probably still with me to this day. I started to isolate myself a lot more, in more ways than one, definitely. But despite the poor state that I was in, I still found at least some joy in watching the creators that I had started to watch through this time. This was when Among Us took off as a thing that people streamed and uploaded on YouTube. Unus Annus was in full swing at this point, which, if you don't know what that is, then you really had to be there. And all of that helped me, at least somewhat, to take my mind off of what was going on. And during this time, I started uploading some of my short films that I made for my film classes at university onto my channel. And so the catalog of videos that I would post on my channel kind of expanded from just sketches that I would do to include some of my short film projects. And it was during my second year of university, having started watching all of these amazing creators and streamers, that I decided that I wanted to try streaming myself. And so in the second semester, I bought my PC tower. I downloaded an app on my phone so that I could use my phone as a webcam, and I began streaming. I guess I may as well turn on my face cam. Let's do that. Hey, this is the setup. My first ever stream ended up being a 6-hour Phasmophobia stream with a good friend of mine who had been a streamer at that point. He was also one of my big inspirations to begin streaming myself. And if you're watching this, hi as well. I'm saying hi to a few people in this video. I also began playing Minecraft on stream too, and I really enjoy streaming. It's given me not only just another outlet for my content, but it's also connected me to people who I wouldn't ever have connected with otherwise. But there was one thing that always got in the way, both when it came to my YouTube channel and streaming on Twitch. And that was the fact that I was always busy. Between classes and working part-time jobs, trying to pay for my semesters, and constantly having to move back and forth from BC to Alberta and back with every semester, I was always having to take these very long breaks from streaming. I say as I have yet again taken another long break from streaming, but I'm getting to that. The main takeaway is I have wanted to focus on producing content, whether that's videos or streaming, for a long time now. But, you know, things in my life, whether it's work, school, or otherwise, have always gotten in the way. But there have been some positives to come out of the streaming space for me. I became affiliated on Twitch within the first year, I think, of me joining, which is insane. And so I began to make at least a small amount of money off of it. One first-time chatter in one of my Minecraft streams ended up sticking around and becoming a good friend of mine. And during Christmas break of that year, 2020, around that time, I started doing reaction videos on my channel. Yes, I finally embraced the reaction meta. A meta that everyone is extremely happy with at the current point of internet land. Now, I didn't have a professional recording setup because I left a lot of my filming equipment at the school. So what I did was I took my camera and I stacked it on a box of mason jars and several books so that it was the right height to record me. And so with my $60 microphone in hand, I began exploring a wide range of things, from the history of my town where I'm from, the mysteries of space, the depths of the ocean, basically just any curious thing that I found interesting. I swear I wasn't just watching videos like... I'm actually sponsored by Dragon 2, guys. Do you hear?
By Dragon? Who's Dragon?
Dragon D.
No, bro! I can't believe it.
In fact, a lot of my reaction meta was looking at articles and reacting to the information that I would find. And in the summer of 2021, skipping ahead a little bit, I launched the Witty Games YouTube channel.
Wow, it's been a month since I uploaded a video. Over a month since I uploaded a video. Man, good thing I'm not about to announce something like I'm starting a second channel or anything. Oh yeah, I did do that. Whoops.
Initially, I used that space to upload clips from my Twitch, as well as edited down versions of my streams. Not all of them, but some of them. However, I did also begin to record a few dedicated series just for the YouTube audience. And my third year of university was a lot more of the same from the second year. Classes were a blend of online and in-person at this point. I continued streaming and occasionally recorded videos, but I found myself lacking in time quite a lot because of, the constraints of my classes and my workload and all that. So most of the time I was just uploading raw VODs from my Twitch onto YouTube because I didn't have time to edit. In Space with Markiplier also came out at around that time, and the videos that I did on that certainly got views, although I wish I could have spent way more time editing them, I will say. I also uploaded the most viewed video on my channel during this time, the Trevor Henderson Smasher Pass video. I did that while the whole Smasher Pass meta was at its peak, and so it happened to catch on. But for the most part, I didn't upload much. And one of the main reasons, on top of the ones I've stated, one of the main reasons for the lack of uploading was because I was working on what at that point was my biggest project of all time, and that was On That Night. In my third year, I had the opportunity to take a screenwriting class in the first semester of that year, and then a directing course in the second semester. So what I chose to do with that was to write a short film that I would then direct and produce for the next semester. And this is when I wrote the script for On That Night. I wanted to write something that I had never written before at that point, a revenge story within a noir setting. I loved the film noir aesthetic, and I wanted to bring something to life in that space. And in the next semester, I sat down with a good friend and fellow filmmaker and asked him to co-direct On That Night with me. During that meeting, we went through the entire script. I talked about the characters and their motivations, the emotions that the characters were experiencing at certain points, and what the audience should be feeling during those moments, just so I could give him as clear of a tie to the vision as possible. And then we began putting together a cast. We also found a student who was in a music production class to record an original score for the movie. We went all out for this production. We got props and costumes. We bought drinks and snacks for the actors to have behind the scenes, because we couldn't pay the actors, so we may as well pay them in like cookies and bubbly. And we also got permission to film in a local restaurant that is the restaurant location in the film, if you've seen it.
Does it be really cool?
He just wrapped reverse.
Okay, awesome. Did you say that?
Meet until 11.
Yeah, maybe tell him come at 11 and you're golden.
Yeah, I'll let him. Oh, he said he'll be there ASAP. I gotta intervene.
Okay.
If you haven't seen it, it's on my channel. I'll link it in the description if I remember. And let me tell you, I'm not gonna get into too much because I could go on forever about this, but there were so many things that went wrong behind the scenes when we were trying to make this film. Nothing like, juicy drama or gossip or anything, just like various things. But the main takeaway is that as a team, we were able to overcome all of these obstacles and achieve a result that I still am proud of to this day. And I think that's something really special, because we could have easily just given up at any point during the production when any number of things happened.
He's already off to the side. Oh, he walked away. Okay.
Oh, yep, he's gone. He has entirely disappeared. Oh no.
I don't know.
We lost our antagonist. Where'd he go?
Just right in the middle here. Like, you know, turn your body towards this way, but like towards the middle so that you can see your face. Okay, let's run it again.
There were many days during the actual shooting of the film where we would get up super early in the morning for a shoot or to, you know, prepare a location. And then we would be up late at night prepping the shot list for the scene the next day. On average, I was probably getting 4 to 5 hours of sleep over the process of 2 weeks. Over the course of 2 weeks, I mean. And then the edit began. Each of us took different chunks of the film to edit ourselves. We collaborated and sent notes back and forth, deciding on different details of the edit. And this all culminated in a 13-hour editing session where me, my co-director, and the music producer were all in one room, all working together, providing live feedback on what each other was doing to create what ended up being the final edit. And we managed to finalize the film just in time for the big screening. See, we had planned to premiere on that night at our school's annual film festival, but it ended up being canceled that year. And so, wanting to still showcase our work, we worked together with the department that we were both students of to host our own private screening for the cast and crew of the film, as well as showcasing other incredibly talented filmmakers who had made stuff that year. It was a couple weeks in the making, but we somehow managed to shoot and edit a short film as well as organize an official screening of a bunch of films in 2 weeks, which I can't imagine doing now. The big day came, and we ended up screening on that night in front of an audience of well over 100 people. Possibly 200? I don't actually know the numbers on that. That was probably one of the highlights, not only of my career, but just of my life in general. You know, hearing the audience applause as the credits began to roll on my first really big short film. It was quite something.
Yes, first of all, thank you all so much for coming. Very last second, but we appreciate you all showing up and supporting our amazing filmmakers tonight.
And just to plug it again, that short film is available for free on my YouTube channel. Click the link in the description below. Fast forwarding to later in the spring/early summer, the release of the movie The Batman led me to begin a admittedly rather short series of videos on my channel called Film Student Reviews. The content of which is pretty self-explanatory. I would take a film and I would review it. It was a very short-lived series, but it was a very important step for the channel because it was a lot closer to what would become this style of content that I'm making for you all right now. That summer was also when I launched my Patreon, which, shout out to the patrons. Thank you all for supporting me for almost a year at this point. As of recording this video, it is 1 week till the anniversary of the Patreon. So, hey, thanks to you all. And another very important event around this time that I haven't talked about at this point is my discovery of a YouTube channel known as WhittyGuy. I loved his videos that would range from 40 minutes to hours long, talking about whatever, whether it was conspiracy theories, true crime, ARGs, a whole slew of things. I loved and still do love his videos. At this point, I would probably consider him my favorite creator that I watch today. And not only that, but he was the main source of inspiration for what this channel would become. A place where I tell these longer stories, talking about films that people might not have ever known about, or analyzing the deeper elements of an album by going into the lyrics. I credit WhittyGuy for launching this new season of my channel, with the first video that I made being my analysis of The Weeknd's After Hours album, which you can also watch if you go to my channel and just scroll for like 2 seconds. I have always loved stories from early childhood to present day, and I want to use this channel as a platform to tell you all amazing stories, whether that's stories that have already been made that I'm telling you about that you might not have heard of, or whether that's stories of my own in short film projects that I work on in the future. But in the meantime, while this was starting, uploads and streams were still very sparse. I found it quite hard to balance the workload at school, my workload at home. I had a very irregular work schedule, especially that summer, where my schedule was just all over the place, so I couldn't find time to just sit down and record and edit things. However, the fall semester in my 4th and final year of university would provide me with a very interesting opportunity. One of my favorite professors at the university was offering a new, very experimental course called How to Be a Social Media Star. A little spot on, don't you think? The class did cover a lot of the theoretical and technical aspects of what it takes to be an online creator in today's digital environment, but the main bulk of the course was hands-on work. The main experiment being everyone in the class tried to actually become an influencer, at least for the semester. We were able to choose, what kind of influencer we wanted to be, what platform we would choose, where all of our content would exist, but we had to post weekly at the very least. And I chose to use this opportunity to try and grow my gaming channel, Witty Games, which up until this point had been all over the place. It was a collection of VODs I didn't have time to edit, series that I didn't have time to finish. It was a bit of a mess. And this is what led to what I very endearingly called Season 2 of Witty Games, which is a very real playlist that you can watch on Witty Games after this video. And the result was a small degree of success in what I was trying to do. The YouTube channel experienced a decent amount of growth during this semester, and a lot of the videos that I did during that time ended up becoming some of the most viewed videos on that channel. But more importantly, the class also gave me the push that I needed to post weekly. Sure, I had other classes and homework and the same workload that I'd been dealing with for the past 4 years, but part of that workload included having to shoot, edit, and publish YouTube videos on a weekly basis. I passed the course having experienced at least a small degree of success in the original goal of this class. But by far the greatest success out of that class was the co-director of On That Night, a good friend of mine, who posted a reel to Instagram that now has 6.5 million views. I had to look that up. And then the next semester rolled around, and unfortunately I could not sustain weekly uploads on the Witty Games channel for reasons that we are about to get to. My last year of university was a lot. During this last semester, I had the most amount of reasons to be overworked and stressed out of my mind that I had ever had. First of all, I was the teaching assistant for the film program at my university, meaning I was the TA for all of the film classes, not just a specific class. I worked with the film professor directly, and occasionally I did workshops with the students where I would come in and essentially give a lecture in front of a classroom of people that were either my age or slightly younger. So it was weird. It was weird. And another one of my duties was to help to plan and run our school's annual film festival, the one that I talked about earlier that got canceled. It didn't get canceled while I was TA. And this was probably the most stressful thing out of that whole semester because there was so much that needed to be done behind the scenes. So much chaos went on. If I sat down and actually talked about it, this video would be an hour longer. On the day of the festival itself, me and the other TA who were both in charge of planning this event and running it, we put in that day alone 12 hours of non-stop work. And afterwards, we promptly collapsed in a puddle on the floor. It was a great festival though, and I ended up winning an award for a film I submitted, but I'm gonna get to that in a bit here. Because on top of trying to graduate and seeing if I had all of the credits required to graduate, and on top of hosting classes and organizing this film festival, I was enrolled in 2 film classes in 1 semester. You know what that means. The requirements for both of those classes were to write, direct, and edit a short film, which resulted in a very chaotic time where I had to write, cast, direct, shoot, edit 2 short films in 1 semester, while also having other classes, desperately trying to graduate, and running a film festival. Let me tell you, that was draining. But it was also very rewarding. This stress-fueled sprint to the finish line led to my most recent projects, Don't Let It In and Melancholie de Trôme. And I submitted Don't Let It In to the film festival that I was also helping to run. Don't worry, I swear there's no corruption. I wasn't in charge of who won anything. I submitted the film to be judged by a panel of both indie and industry filmmakers. And for my efforts, I ended up winning Best Director for my work on Don't Let It In, which was, of course, another career high for me. Fun fact, there are actually no normal pictures of me from that night. By the time the festival started, I had already put in like 7 hours of work, so I was delirious. And after all of that stress and reward and hair pulling, the big day finally came. I ended up graduating university with a bachelor's degree in arts. And let me tell you, that felt so good. After that, this summer, I wanted to try and experience some level of independence. I'm an adult now, I can do that. So I decided that instead of going home for the summer, I would live in an apartment with a few friends of mine, including the person who I co-directed On That Night with and who got me into streaming. We've been friends for years at this point. He's a great guy. And during this time, I began doing regular content for the first time ever. I began doing weekly videos showcasing stories that I genuinely care about, as well as trying to find my footing in the gaming space. Fun fact, I actually wasn't much of a gamer before I started streaming. I don't know. I played games as a kid, obviously, but just like, Lego Star Wars for the Wii. I didn't play many video games until I started streaming. And now let me tell you, the amount of hours I have on certain games is not good or healthy. But it's been really good. It felt great producing regular content for you all. And, telling these stories and having an ongoing series on the other channel, on Witty Games. I also began doing contracted video and video editing work in order to, pay the bills as I looked for a steady job to kind of finance me while I'm out here. I am currently still sending out applications to places around the city. And then came one last final break from posting, which has led us to this moment. Hi. It all started when I went home for a break to see my family for a bit and reconnect with some friends. But even then, I was still working on videos. The last video on this channel, besides my short film obviously, was shot in my childhood bedroom. But when I got back to the apartment that I had been living in, my roommate finally arrived and moved into the already very small room, which led to some complications on how I could film anything. His schedule was very unpredictable, so I couldn't find a great time to just sit down and record videos uninterrupted. And all of that leads us to this moment, right here, where I have now made two of the biggest decisions of my life. The first of which relates to this new background that you're seeing. See, the lease agreement for the apartment expires at the end of August, which is coming up fast. So I knew I couldn't stay there for much longer. And so I was looking for other options around to, try and stay out here. Because now that I have a taste of independence, I kind of enjoy it. And that brings us to here. I've moved in to a new place. I signed a lease, and I will be here for a long time, at least a year. This is probably the biggest investment I have made in my life, and I am simultaneously very excited and very nervous. Maybe I'll do a video tour around the place if that's something you would all want. You can leave a comment if you do want it, but I love this place. The office still has some work that needs to be done. The main thing is putting some rugs down. I don't know if you can hear the echo in here, but it's very reflective in here. I'm trying to work on that. For the sake of my mental health, I have always wanted to have a place where my bedroom and my office where I work and record, I've always wanted those to be two separate rooms, two separate spaces, and now I finally have that. And up until this point, that brings us to the end of the story that I came here to tell you today, which is my story. But the story isn't over yet, and I have a little bit more that I want to say if you're willing to stick around. You see, I've said this idea before in a lot of my videos, especially recently, but now I want to boldly proclaim it and also begin to take initiative towards this goal. You see, I've loved making content over the last 4 years, whether that's videos on my various channels or streaming. And now that I feel like my content has a direction, I have no intention of stopping. And now I am an adult who has rent to pay, and so I need to start making money. And I've mentioned that I have applications out currently, and I'll be sending out more looking for work. But what if I didn't have to? I'm generally very chill and shy about, stuff that involves asking for help. But now, I want to say it to you all now with my full chest. I want to make content creation my job. See, when I think about what I really love doing, I love sharing stories with you all, and I love working on projects and telling my own stories through my short films. If I were able to do this for you all and make enough money to live on, that would be a dream come true. So there it is. That's my goal. But goals and thoughts are nothing without action. And unfortunately, the thing about trying to do stuff like this online and have some level of success is ultimately it's not up to me. With that said, if you want to support my goal of being able to do this full time, here are some things that you can do, as well as things that I'm going to do as well. I'm going to start with the options that don't cost money, because I do understand that the economy is not great right now, and just because you're watching me does not mean that you inherently have the ability to support me, at least financially. But there are things that you can do. To that end, the big thing that I would say is engage with the content. Do all the things that YouTubers say you should do. Like the video if you enjoy what you see. Subscribe if you enjoy all of the videos that you see on this channel. Leave a comment on the video to engage with me, talk with me, and to engage with each other as well. Try and build a community. And share the videos with friends that you think will enjoy them. At the very least, these longer videos that I make may be something nice to have on in the background while you're doing homework or something. And if I'm streaming on Twitch or on YouTube, come say hi. Share the stream with your friends, have it on in the background, or talk to me in chat or talk to the others in chat. Most of my streams are gaming related, but if you all just want to come and hang out, let me know in the comments below if I should do more just chatting streams where I talk with you all and just, share stories and, just have a conversation. I'm absolutely open to suggestions for anything that I could do on Twitch. Speaking of Twitch, that is one of the ways that you can financially support me as well. Through Twitch's subscriptions and bits, you can give, one-time instances of support to me and the channel. And I'm gonna do some reworking around those things. Maybe have it so bit donations over a certain amount have a text-to-speech voice where you can say something to me. Because I'll be completely honest with you all, I don't run ads on my stream. I don't like it. I think it's bad overall for growth, especially for a small streamer like me. So unless you're subscribed to me, you'll only get one ad when you first click on my stream. So without those ad breaks, the best way that you can support me on Twitch is through subs and bits. And now for the big way that you can support me, which I've kind of talked about a little bit before this, and that is Patreon. The Patreon at this point is almost a year old, and it has been a great year. I've been able to connect with the patrons through Patreon-only streams. We've had conversations in community posts, and they have helped me to finance purchases that I have put towards improving my content, including the sound panels that you see on the wall behind me. And most recently, I used that money to buy a couple new games that I'll be streaming on Twitch, as well as recording a series for on YouTube. And now, on what is pretty close to the 1-year anniversary of the Patreon, I am launching 2 new tiers. And to the current patrons that exist, don't worry, your tiers will remain completely unchanged. I'm not moving the goalposts, I'm just creating more. These 2 tiers will specifically exist to help me try and achieve this goal of becoming a full-time content creator for you all. The tiers are priced at $10 and $20 a month. And I'm absolutely open to suggestions on rewards that can be offered for these upper tiers. If you have any ideas, leave a comment down below. But here are my main ideas. First of all, both will have access to all of the rewards of the other less expensive tiers, of course. As well, they will both receive special recognition at the end of each video. If anyone chooses to support me in these upper tiers, you will get a very special shout out at the end of each video. And if anyone does decide to become a $20 patron, which is the highest tier right now, I will personally buy a whiteboard from the store and I will put your username on it to exist in the background of my YouTube content and my streaming setup forever. And again, if you have any suggestions for additional rewards that I can offer for these upper tiers, please leave a comment down below. I am absolutely open to suggestions. And good news for all of the current patrons and possible future patrons, the weekly streams will be resuming. We will use that time to connect and have conversation with each other. I will also be using that time to talk about current project ideas that I'm working on. They'll be the first people to hear about the interesting things that I'm working on behind the scenes before I release anything on the main channel. And I know I'm talking a lot about these very new high tiers, but if you are unable to support me at that level or just don't want to, I do have much cheaper options available on the Patreon for you. Even $1 a month gives you access to those weekly live streams, as well as credit at the end of all of my videos. And to any viewers not based in Canada, the pricing for these tiers is in Canadian dollars. So for those in the US, the $1 tier is 75 cents, and the $20 tier is $15 American. And lastly, I will be updating the official goal for the Patreon. one of the things that Patreon allows you to do is set a goal on your channel. Hi, it's me, Chris from the future. Actually, Chris from the past. The Chris who's editing this video. I'm just quickly interrupting to say that the Patreon goal feature has actually been removed, and I didn't know that when I recorded this video, but I'm still going ahead with the goal anyways. And I never actually specified an amount or a goal in the actual video because I didn't know what kind of goal, what size of goal I should be reaching for when I actually recorded the video, so that's why I'm here now. And I'll admit the goal that I have selected is a very lofty goal, but if we do reach it, then I can confidently say that with what I am making doing content, I will not need any sort of secondary income. The goal that I'm setting is $5,000, but not necessarily for Patreon exclusively. If we are consistently making at least $5,000 through Patreon, through Twitch, if my YouTube channel ever gets monetized, if we ever reach that figure, then I can confidently say that I do not need any sort of other job, and I can officially say that we've made it to our goal. And I also never mentioned this in the original recording, but I also do have a PayPal if you want to give a one-time donation as well. That's another way that you can support me if you've listened this long. But what am I going to do if we reach this huge goal? And to that, I will now cut back to past me, the me who recorded the actual video. Bye. If we reach that goal, I will do a 12-hour live stream on my Twitch channel. And we can discuss in the comments of this video or on the Patreon itself ideas for things that I could do or challenges I could have during this 12-hour live stream, but I will be live for 12 hours. And with all that said, that is my story from past to present and the goals that I have going forward. And this is something that I'm committed to. No more huge breaks that last months at a time. If I ever, for whatever reason, have to delay a project for a little bit or a video for whatever reason, I will update you all as soon as possible, and I will be back as soon as possible. That is my promise. I will also be being much more active on the Patreon with weekly live streams, as well as posting behind-the-scenes content for any projects that I'm working on. For those interested in the exclusive content, that is for the $5 tier and up. And for all current patrons, I will have a poll set up to go live on the Patreon for whenever this video goes up. The poll will be to decide what time works best for the most amount of people for me to have these weekly live streams. What day, what time of day. And so if you've reached the end of this video and have decided that you do want to support my content through Patreon, then I would do it soon so that you can vote on this poll before it closes. And I know I went very heavy on the Patreon plug here at the end of the video, but that is not the only way that you can support me. It is just the strongest way you can. The Patreon is there purely for if you want to help me get to my goal faster. But that's it. Now you all know where I'm at and where I plan on going here in the future. I want to make this telling stories for you all my mission and my job. And those are the ways that you can help me to achieve that. So if you've watched this long, thank you so much for watching the video and for entertaining me for this long. It does mean a lot that you're here at the end of the video, that you've heard out every bit of my story, and that you're still listening. And if at any point it seems like my life was going all over the place and getting a little crazy, that's because it was. Special thanks, of course, goes to the patrons. Thank you all so much for supporting me for this long. And if you too want to join the Patreon, the link is, as always, in the description. And I know we are about halfway through my series on The Dark Knight Returns. That is going to be my next upload. I'm planning on recording that immediately after this recording, maybe, depending. I'm very sweaty right now. And once that series is over, I'm going to compile all of the videos, trim the intros and outros, and upload it to the channel as one big video that people can watch if you are just discovering the series for the first time. Beyond that, I have a bunch of video ideas for you all that I am in the midst of working on. I have a backlog of scripts that I have been writing during the time that I was away. So I will be working on all of those, and I hope that you will stick around for whatever video I choose to post after this series. I hope you're excited for that because I know that I am. And cut.